Hello friends, welcome to Let's Crack UPSC CSE English. This is me, Dr. Siddharth Arora. And friends, we are continuing our series of Lakshmikant summaries for polity. This channel is especially directed at those aspirants for whom it was difficult to understand Hindi language, for which there is another channel called as Let's Crack UPSC CSE. This channel is specifically made by Unacademy for those aspirants for whom Hindi understanding was difficult and are comfortable only and only in English language. For those of you who are interested in studying the same subject bilingual manner, please go to the other channel or please refer to the other channel. We have repeated the same courses, the same structures in the other channel called as Let's Crack UPSC CSE. Now, in the series that we have already launched, this is the next in the series. Those of you who have not watched the previous videos, I would sincerely suggest you go and watch those videos. It will be helpful for you in understanding some kind of connections between the chapters. Second, those of you who are already studying from Lakshmikant, please read this book alongside watching these videos. Make a parallel study so that you are able to draw a connection between the two of them. It is very, very important, and I'll repeat it n number of times, that the more connections you are able to draw between the subject, the more you will be rewarded. It is always a good idea to remember an important adage, and that is UPSC will not reward you for merely facts. UPSC will reward you for facts which are connected to one another. In this series today, we are doing what is called as Union and its territory. So you can open the book at the relevant chapter. You can read either parallelly or subsequently. Now, why are we doing all this? Why are we making all these videos? We are making all these videos for a specific reason, that Unacademy has a single point agenda. The single point agenda here is, by somehow, some way, whatever means, whether we should be reading NCERT or Lakshmikant or MCQ courses or polity current affairs. Why are we doing all this? Because Unacademy wants to help you till the last day of your preparation. Whatever ways possible, we want to be a supporting hand. There are no guarantees in God's own world, and UPSC is a very tough exam, but we'll try and make your life, your journey a little bit simpler by giving you all the kinds of support so that you have a realistic chance of passing this exam. My friends, there is no big deal in appearing for this exam. To bring you close to the passing of this exam, to give you a realistic chances, we have brought in many courses. One huge announcement for all of you: I have launched a new course, and this course is called as Comprehensive Course on Polity for UPSC CSE 2021. This course is launched and it will be active on May 11th. Now, don't waste a single moment. This is an intense course. It is an intense course which will go on all the way till 3rd of July. I will teach all the topics of polity in this course from day zero. I welcome all of you to join this course. This is targeting for 2021, but you can obviously revise this again and again. After that also, there will be many more courses to add to these courses. But this is very logical at this stage to join this course. These courses are launched, and the important part here is that Unacademy has drastically reduced the prices. Now at reduced prices, okay, if you notice, the 1-year course, those of you who are appearing in 2020 or 2021, my friends, join this course with a 12-month course. Take a 12-month subscription which is available at 40,000 rupees. Use my code SIDLIVE, 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 and you will get an immediate 10% discount, and at 36,000 rupees you can get this 1-year course. Those of my friends who are appearing for this exam in 2022 or 23, or for that matter even 24, don't waste a single more moment. Take a 2-year course which is available for 48,000 rupees. Use my code SIDLIVE, SIDLIVE, and you will get an immediate 10% discount. At 43,200, this course will be available to you. Do some maths. If you take a 1-year course, it is 36,000, and if you take a 2-year course, it is for 43,200. Mere difference of 7,200, and it is an 1-year difference in subscription. Don't waste a single more moment. The decision is yours. You are a wise gang of students. Take a wise decision, but join now. Take a decision now. Let's look at today's topic. So our topic today is the Union and its territory. Now, when I say union and its territory, we'll have to refer to Article 1 to Article 4. That is part 1 of the Constitution. Article 1 of the Constitution says a beautiful line, and that says, India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. Now, when we study at school level, we are always given the example or use the word called as federation. We're always given a word called as federation. So, federation is what? Federation is also, in a way, states coming together to form a large union. And this is also India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. Now, is India a true federation? So, I asked this question to Dr. Ambedkar himself. So, Dr. Ambedkar was asked the question that is India a federation? Then Dr. Ambedkar would say, you have to understand that India is not a true federation. India is a union of states. So, what does that mean? What does it mean? We'll come to on the last part of this, because you will understand this. But what is federation? First, I'll explain you, and then you will understand, and you'll answer the same question to me again. But at the end of this video, when you will be able to tell me what is the difference between federation and the structure that India is. So, India is not a true federation. So, first let's look at what a federation is. Federation is an indestructible union of indestructible states. What am I saying? It is an indestructible union of indestructible states. In other words, neither the union coming together is going to be destroyed, nor the states which are forming this union is going to be destroyed. Classical example, United States of America. The United States of America is an indestructible union, and it is made up of indestructible states. So neither can you do something about Texas, which is a state, or nor can you do anything about the United States of America. Look at the difference. Appreciate the grammar here. India is a union of states. America is the United States of America. Huge difference can also be implied from this word. So you have to understand that America, United States of America, is a true federation. As contrast to this, India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. Now, what does that mean? It means that all the territories which may comprise of the states, the union territories, or any other area that is acquired by India subsequently will become a part of the Union of India. Now, my question comes, so where is this areas written? Where are these territories written? Where are the states mentioned? Where are the union territories mentioned? It is all mentioned in a part of the Constitution called as the first schedule. So, you look at the first schedule, which is the last part. Go to the schedules part of the Constitution. Go to the last part, refer to of Schedule 1, and you'll see all the names of the union territories, all the states, etc. And subsequently, sir, if we acquire some area, no problem. That word also be mentioned in the first schedule. So, Article 1 is to be read with first schedule. It is always better to read it, because India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. But what other territories? It will also include other territories which could be later on acquired by India. Now look at Article 2. The word has to be very carefully understood. The Parliament may by law admit new states into the Union of India or establish new states on terms and conditions it deems fit. Now please pay attention to this very, very carefully. When I am talking to Article 2 or when I am talking of Article 2, I am talking of any new area which is included in India. I hope you are understanding. It is to be understood beyond the borders of India. So you have any other area, or you are seceding some area, or occupying some area, conquest, subjugation, anything which is beyond India, not the original so-called India, and you acquire a new area, then which article comes into force? That article is Article 2. So Article 2 is also related to my union and its territories. But Article 3 is on a different footing. So you have to make out the difference. You have to discern that difference. That's huge. Article 2 is for a new area outside India. Article 3 is within India. That is, we're dealing with states within India. This is a huge difference. You have to appreciate that. Nobody explains it. Nobody understands polity the way it should be understood. They just memorize. Article 1 is a broad definition of India, that is Bharat shall be a union of states. Article 2 is you acquire a new area, secede, subjugation, anything, occupy, take over some territory. That's Article 2. Article 3 is within the states of India. If you have any kind of, number 1, formation of a new state. Number 2, increase the area of a new state, decrease the area of the new state, or decrease the area of a state, or alter the boundary of a state, or alter the name of any state. So Article 3 is on a different footing. It's not Article 2. Article 3 is the change of the states or change the name. You want to combine two states, make one. You can break one state into two states. You know so many examples. Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Maharashtra, Gujarat, Punjab, Haryana. Okay. You can bifurcate, trifurcate, alter the state, divide the state. You can do anything. Who can do this? Parliament. Very good. This is what? Article 3. What is Article 2? Again, Parliament. So what are we noticing? We are noticing that the Parliament has got a huge role to play in determining the structure of India. Whether you are going to include new states, whether you want to alter new states or alter the states, boundary, decrease the name, decrease the boundary, increase the boundary, form new states, alter the name, everything is under the Parliament. That's very interesting, but very important. With relationship to Article 3, there are certain constitution safeguards. What does that mean? Before you pass such a bill, that is in relationship to Article 3, or you make a new state, you require a presidential recommendation. And the presidential recommendation is also, in a way, to a certain extent, dependent upon a reference made to the relevant state legislature. There is a time limit that is required to be given to this reference to the state legislature. Again, however, I must say this is a crucial safeguard. Now, why would I say this is a crucial safeguard? See, let's go back in time. Go back to 1950, right? So we go back in 1950. Now imagine you are a state, right? Or you are a princely state, or you're a province. Now, do you realize that India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states? I agree to this. So what's the point? Now, Dr. Ambedkar and the founding fathers of the constitution had to give you some kind of safeguard, something to safeguard your identity. Otherwise, the parliament or the union will become too dominant. You have to agree on this part. That is why, whom do we trust, or whom do we give this huge responsibility? This responsibility is number one to the office of the president, and number two, the constitution safeguards that is present in the constitution itself. Otherwise, the union will become too dominant, and then the entire concept of federation comes crashing down. We're not a true federation, agreed, absolutely. But certainly you cannot forget a fact that India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. That means there is a division of power between union and the states. So there has to be certain safeguards. Otherwise, the parliament will become too dominating. These safeguards are number one in the office of the president, and number two, the constitutional safeguards, which require that the state must have some say in this part. In contrast to this, it is unlike that in USA. Why? Because in USA, as I said, it is a true federation. The states are pretty much sovereign in their decisions. So these are two entirely different things that you have to pay attention to this. Obviously, it is beyond the scope of a YouTube video to explain me or explain you in this much detail, but you have to follow this part, that there is a difference between true federation of USA and the word union of states. Now, comes a very famous case called as the Berubari Union case. Okay, so what was Berubari Union case all about? So Berubari, just to give you a very quick brief up on this, of course, as I said, it's very difficult to do on a YouTube video, and that is why I keep on recommending that if possible and if there's not too much of trouble, please join us on an Academy subscription. I'll be able to help you out in a far better way. Either ways, Berubari was an area in the New Jalpaiguri region of Bengal. Now, by a mistake, by an error in the functioning of the Boundary Commission, this kind of remained with India when it should have gone to East Pakistan. 1952 onwards, Pakistan starts officially demanding for the Berubari area to be returned. Now, 1958, Nehru signs an agreement. So, Prime Minister Nehru signs an agreement called as the Nehru-Noon Agreement with the Pakistani counterpart and says that we will cede away the territory of Berubari. Now, that brings us to a pertinent question. What is the pertinent question here? The pertinent question here is, pertinent question? Yes, very dangerous question. Article 3. The pertinent question over here is, India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. Sir, why are we repeating it 100th time now? I'm repeating it the 100th time here because we can form new states, we can increase the area of a state, we can decrease the boundary of the state, we can alter the name of the state, we can alter the boundary of the state. You can look at this over here. But does Article 3 give me the power to give away a state? Can I give away Berubari using Article 3? Now that becomes a $1 million question. And because it's a $1 million question, it's an important question that is dealing with the interpretation of the Constitution. Article 143 was utilized by the then President Dr. Rajendra Prasad, and the question was referred to the Honorable Supreme Court, and a constitutional bench was set up to decide this matter. Does Article 3 cover the position of cession? In other words, can I give away a territory like this? The Supreme Court in that case said no. Okay, you will have to make an amendment, and that is why we had to pass the 9th Constitutional Amendment Act 1960. 9th Constitutional Amendment Act 1960 was made in order to enforce the Nehru-Noon Agreement related to Berubari. As I said, this is the least and the best that I can do over a YouTube video. This has to be understood in far more detail, but I hope you got the drift that we have to amend Article 3. This is what we later saw again in the form of land boundary agreement, which was the exchange of enclaves and conclaves. I hope you remember this part. So that land boundary agreement also is dealing with, land boundary agreement is also dealing with cessation. So I asked myself this question: why should I have another land boundary agreement if there is a land boundary agreement, or why should I have another amendment? Remember, 100th Constitutional Amendment Act 2015 was passed in order to exchange those enclave territories. Now, why would I need another amendment when we have already done this in 9th Constitutional Amendment Act 1960? First of all of you must appreciate that in 1960, Bangladesh was not Bangladesh, this was East Pakistan. And in 1971, Bangladesh came into existence after the India-Pakistan war. So we formed a new country called Bangladesh. Now the point was that agreement that we had done, the 9th Constitutional Amendment Act 1960, should have been notified, but by some procedural lapse, it was not notified, and that is why it is important that we have to form another amendment, and that was the 100th Constitutional Amendment Act. So you must have read something about it. So this we deal in too much of detail when we do international relations, and what is the problem with land boundary agreement, what is West Bengal's problem, and what is the status of the enclave transfer, and so on and so forth. That comes again when we do our courses of IR. It's a very important topic, and please remember this as the amendment also. Now we have understood this part. So we have understood Article 1, 2, 3, and the fourth one is all dealing with incidental provisions of Article 1, 2, and 3. In other words, what are the different provisions related to 1, 2, 3 which are to be enforced, and whatever the incidental and supplemental provisions are. So Article 1 to 4 deals with part 1 of the Constitution. Now you have to go back in time. Why? Because I want to explain you something else. So you have to go back in time, and let's look at some historical perspective of the entire India, that is Bharat shall be a union of states. So when Britishers left us, okay, and when we became independent, at that time we did not have this kind of division the way we have a division now. And instead we had some other division. Instead, at that time, all the states or all the territories in India were divided into 4 different types of states. One was called as Part A states, which were the 9 governor ruled states or territories. Part B were 9 princely states with a legislature. Part C were 10 chief commissioner ruled areas, and Part D only included Andaman and Nicobar. So this was a very unique division. So we have Part A, Part B, Part C, and Part D. Now the time comes that India has to be divided into proper states according to the new India, according to the independent country India is. Now I keep wondering myself, when the government was wondering, how should we divide these states? There were many different options available. So first amongst this was the Dhar Commission, or the 1948 S.K. Dhar led commission. This commission was asked, can we, this is just a question, can we have language as a basis of division of India states? Now the Dhar Commission in 1948 said no, nothing doing. You cannot have language, we don't approve of this part. Instead, you must be looking at development potential, you must be looking at administrative conditions, you must be looking at financial viability, you must be looking at geographical contiguity. So these were the 4 different ways on which the Dhar Commission said, let's divide India. When Dhar Commission report came, most of Indians were not very happy about it. So another committee was formed that was called as the JVP committee, which is an acronym, or which is a short form for Jawaharlal Nehru, Vallabhbhai Patel, and Puthtavi Sitaramaiah. Now this committee also refused to have language as a basis. So linguistic basis of division was in the early days of India's union not acceptable. But then something happened. So Andhra Pradesh, okay, because of a huge protest, especially led by Potabi Sriramalu, okay, was so-called successful. That's a word, that's the best I can say. They was successful in making or carving out the first state ever in India on the basis of language. The Telugu dominant state of Andhra Pradesh came into existence, and voila, the doors opened. Now everybody thought that if you can form Andhra Pradesh on the basis of language, then you can have any other state also. The entire idea came into presence that we should have linguistic basis. So Fazal Ali Commission was formed, and Fazal Ali Commission report said that let's have language as a basis, and we had to pass what is called as the State Reorganization Act of 1956, and we passed the 7th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1956. 7th Constitutional Amendment Act 1956 abolished the earlier division of Part A, Part B, Part C and Part D states. I hope you recall. And the State Reorganization Act 1956 divided India into two units. One unit which will be called as states, and the other units which will be controlled by the union, and that will be called as union territories. So apart from the Part A, Part B, Part C and Part D division, we now had no Part A, Part B, Part C, Part D, just two divisions. One was state and one was union territories. This has to go on and on and on. You have to read about this in far more detail, but for the time being, this is how we had what is called state reorganization. So entire thing was arranged. Now you have state and you have union territories. No distinction between Part A and Part B. Part C was abolished. Now actually the entire concept was dependent only on states and union territories. So what have we done? We have noticed a very important thing. India is a union of states, but India is not a true federation. Why? Because the parliament has got an upper hand on the functioning of the government, or sorry, the structure, and the states are not actually sovereign to decide everything. This is described in India as a quasi-federal state. So Vere gave a very beautiful word for this. India is a quasi-federal state with a unitary tilt. We have seen that the parliament can redraw the map. This is uniquely different and completely distinct from what is happening in the United States of America. So what are we? We are an indestructible union. So would you think America is also an indestructible union? Yes, but America is indestructible states also. In contrast to this, India is destructible states. India is having a common thread. The common thread is the spirit of federalism. Federalism is not by an agreement here. So we are not formed a federation by an agreement like that of United States of America, but by a spirit, by belief of federalism. So much so that federalism is now accepted as a basic structure doctrine of the Constitution of India, and that is why you cannot touch this. You cannot go wrong against this part. Federalism is the very basic structure of the Constitution. This is how you have understood from our part of union and its territory. Hundreds and thousands of questions can be made out of this part. I would actually sincerely ask you to either do this in detail, or if there's not much of a trouble, join us on our Unacademy subscription, Unacademy courses. We'll deal with these courses in far more detail and it will be greatly beneficial to you. If you want to join, you're free to join with very reduced prices. Either choose a 12-month course or choose a 24-month course. Use my code SIDLIVE and you'll get a 10% discount. In the words of Unacademy, my friends, let's crack it. Until next time, God bless and thank you.